Hello, everybody. Welcome to Take the Black Live, the show where myself and my beautiful guest, Josh Hill of fanseta.com, filling in for Cheryl Wassenaar of culturist.com, go through the latest in Game of Thrones, Song of Ice and Fire news. And, of course, Season 8 being a few weeks away, there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
Cheryl's sick, by the way, if you guys are wondering. But Josh is gamely filled in. Thank you, Josh.
Yes. Glad to be here. And hello, everybody. Sue and Kenny. Margaret, T, Christian, everybody. The whole gang's here.
Everybody.
Where's Julie, though? Julie. Oh, there's Julie. Good morning, all.
Well.
There she is. I was like, this isn't right. If Julie doesn't say hello, the show cannot go on.
You really can't. We'll just sit here until it happens. All right, so let's jump into it, though.
Yeah.
Starting with, so frankly, these days things are coming in so fast. I can barely. I'm serious. Like,
Yeah.
Everybody's releasing their coverage at the same time. I think it's stupid. Like, they're all shooting themselves in the foot because no one coverage is going to get is going to dominate the news cycle. But we're going to hit some of the highlights of the past week. Starting with the official poster for Game of Thrones Season 8, or the key art. Let's take a look at that bad boy, shall we? Okay, it'll happen.
Oh, very cool.
Ooh, it's an Iron Throne, but it's also got the eyes of a dragon. What do you think, Josh?
Ah, I'm into it. I don't know. Like, I think we had this conversation about another season, about like the leading into. I think it was the Faces. Which season was that? Six. I mean, like, I get it. Like, what? I'm excited for the show already. Like, so this poster's already gonna do it for me.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, actually, like, I wonder why you even like really have a TV poster. I feel like you can like put it up outside of a Cineplex or something.
Yeah.
But I like it. It's fun. I think it's a little dorky, honest to God.
What about it makes it dorky?
Because it's a living chair. It's got like a gimmick. It's like, this is the Iron Throne, or is it? It's like a Where's Waldo magic eye kind of thing. You look at it.
I needed like a Jim Henson puppet chair. That's what I needed. Just
Like,
a total plot twist in season 8.
The Iron Throne was like planning everything all along.
Kermit.
I'd be into that. Yeah.
Let's do it.
Like, for contrast, like, we got the season 2 poster here. I don't know. I mean, like, I'm complaining, I'm bitching, but I like the simplicity of that.
Yeah.
You know, there's no trick, right? It's not like, if you look closely, the crown is actually a smile. Like, no, just a crown, and it's holding up.
It could be a ring. One ring to rule them all.
It could be a ring, you're right. But that's a very large ring. It's a hand holding.
I don't know. These posters, they have to encompass the overall theme of the season, do they not?
They do.
So, like, this, obviously, the last season, the biggest question is who's going to sit on the Iron Throne.
Of course.
So you can't have a season 8 poster where it's like, and here's Sam on the wall. Like, that's not going to fly.
I would
Like,
dig
it's
it,
gonna
though. It'd be intriguing.
I would dig it, too. But also, you've got to play ball a little bit when it comes to marketing.
Of course. I know. I mean, I'm nitpicking. I'm not a graphic designer, but I think it's fun to talk about. I also like the season 5 poster here of just kind of a mysterious Tyrion looking at a dragon in the mist. I like that too. So I give the poster about I don't know, a C+. Are there any comments there? That
Yeah,
weigh
Kenny
in?
says at least the eyes aren't blue, which I believe is an implication
Thank
of
God,
the White
yes.
Walker. But
Yeah, that is Drogon, not dead zombie Viserion dragon.
there we go.
Maybe the dragon, in a way, is the Iron Throne, because whoever wields it has the power.
It's true. It's the
Deep.
metaphor.
Very
It's
deep.
Varys' metaphor was the sword from the book that we talked about. Who yields
There,
the
oh
sword.
yeah. Who? Yeah, that was a whole complicated thing. Of,
It's a chair. I'm not going to look too. I'm not reading too deep into a chair.
You
Like,
can't read
It's a
deep into a
throne.
chair.
It's Game of Thrones. End of story.
Fair enough.
Like,
Okay.
I'm pleased.
I like it too. Moving on. Did you happen to catch Amelia Clark's New Yorker piece this week?
I did, and it was very illuminating.
It was pretty intense, right?
Very intense.
So-
That's understating it.
If people didn't read this or didn't find out about it, Amelia Clark wrote an article for the New Yorker where she recounted kind of her time filming Game of Thrones and had some pretty surprising revelations about it. It ends up that right before season 1 was to air, Amelia Clark suffered a stroke, basically, when she was in the gym. She like dragged herself to the bathroom. She puked. She got rushed to the hospital. They have to operate by putting like a wire up her leg to her brain. Just horrible. Recovery period, she suffers from aphasia, which is where you can't speak. Like you just speak nonsense to someone. It's like a brain disorder. And she's going through this all throughout filming the second season of the show.
Yeah.
And then after season 3, it happens again when another aneurysm she had in the back of her head They tell her it's going to burst any minute, so she has to go in to have like straight up proper brain surgery where they literally crack her skull open, replace it with titanium, go in there, get rid of the aneurysm, and again, horrible recovery period, just awful. Like I was pretty struck by this.
Yeah, I mean, it's like extremely hardcore, which is again being very light about it because I mean this is brain surgery. Like she like almost died twice.
Yeah.
The star of one of the biggest television shows at the time. Like, imagine an alternate reality where that happens. Like, this is just insane. Now, how this never got out is my other question.
Yeah,
because
I was wondering about that. How did she keep that under wraps?
And not even that. Just like in this day and age where information is spread and leaked out so easily, and it's like you don't want something. It's so hard to keep a secret in this day and age. The fact that one of the most popular actresses in the world, which is on one of the most well-known shows in the universe, had almost died twice and had to have brain surgery. The fact that that didn't get out is phenomenal to me. Like I nothing to say to that other than just wow, like holy cow.
I mean, to be fair, it was earlier in the show's life when it wasn't quite.
But still,
as huge,
the fact that that wasn't like wedged into like fun facts to know about Game of Thrones, and it's like. She wrote it, like she's telling it, and the fact that she got to tell us is cool.
Which is great. I mean,
it's
yeah,
not like
it really
TMZ's like breaking news. Emilia Clarke.
Apparently, there was a National Enquirer story around the time of like of a second aneurysm, I think, second surgery. But you know, it's an Enquirer piece. No one paid attention to it. It definitely didn't get out. It wasn't widely reported.
No.
I will say, if like it might have been if it was like 3 years later, if that had gotten out and people jumped on it. But it wasn't, and honestly, that's kind of encouraging that she was able to have that level of anonymity, even though she was a big famous person. And yeah, I loved the article. It was, I recommend reading it if you haven't. Very intense, very heartfelt, very personal. And it was the purpose of it was all to lead up to the fact that she has a charity called Same You, which helps people recover from stroke and brain injury.
Yeah. The comments, people are very shocked by all of this and glad. But it's like, it's the same sentiment. Like, how did this not get out? When the show is so heavily covered from every single angle. I mean, you run a Game of Thrones website. Like, there's websites dedicated to this show. And there are the celebrity culture that we live in, reality television, the e-news, all this kind of stuff. The fact that this didn't get out is just incredible to me. And I think it's not a bad thing. Like the fact that
it's definitely a good thing.
I'm happy, I'm proud that somehow this managed to stay under wraps. Like, and that she got to tell the story. It wasn't
Exactly.
told
Yeah. It was she got to control the way it's going to get out.
Yeah.
And then after she has hindsight on it, can just talk about it.
I mean, it's a textbook Enquirer story. Like Game of Thrones star, near death. Like
just like while you maybe would look at it and be like, nah, not paying
right,
attention
the
to
little
it.
vampire bat baby, or is that like World News Today or something that's different?
It's not Enquirer. The
Same
vampire
thing.
Bat Boy is something else.
It's
but
the same thing.
it's the same.
Whatever.
Ballpark,
But like, yeah, that's and thank God she's all right too. Like, that's incredible.
I mean, all right, and
because
thriving.
there's multiple layers to this. I'm obsessing over the fact that it didn't get out because I just think these things get out all the time. Which I'm completely glossing over the fact that she almost died twice. And they cracked her head open and performed brain surgery. That's incredible.
And I mean, and she's so buoyant and bubbly and kind of like goofy in interviews too, which impresses me.
And she went back to work
like
on Game of Thrones.
Look at Kit Harington, you're like, there's a guy who perhaps underwent brain surgery and upset about it. Like Emilia Clarke, you look at her, she's always so kind of effervescent and fun.
Yeah.
Like I would have never thought.
No. Like, I skinned my knee and I don't want to go to work the next day. And she had brain surgery and she's back on something that is everybody's going to watch. Like, you can't be off your game. Like,
right.
So,
anyway, at the end of it, she says, there's something gratifying and beyond lucky about coming to the end of Thrones. I'm so happy to be here to see the end of this story and the beginning of whatever comes next. So, kudos to you, Emilia Clarke.
Amy Dodd says she's the mother of dragons. So, there you go.
Mother of dragons.
There you go. She's also watching from Liverpool, United Kingdom. So, hello.
Excellent.
Julie wants to be Emilia Clarke when she grows up. So, don't we all?
I kind of do too.
Julie?
Yeah.
You were once, don't you have the wig? It was Halloween or something?
I think it's still in the closet.
It's got to make a comeback.
Probably for the last season. All right. So here's another topic for you, Josh. Game of Thrones is ending. Over. By the way, news came in like just today. The prequel show got 5 new regular cast members.
Okay.
That's pretty interesting. That prequel show is going to be, like, the cast is going to be as big as Game of Thrones, it's looking like. Like, we already know there were, like, 8 people, plus Naomi Watts, plus Maya Richards, now 5 others. That's a big cast for any show. And I'm glad they're committing to if you really want to follow up Game of Thrones and you want to like have an honest to God successor,
Yeah.
you can't like have a show with like a 5-member core cast. You got to go big. And you know, lose or win, I'm glad they're swinging for it. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens there. But also, there are a lot of other shows that are going to come out in the wake of Game of Thrones that are going to try to, you know, take the throne, basically, get a hold of the genre crown. And this is an interesting wrinkle. There's an interview with a Game of Thrones actor named Ian Beattie, who played Meryn Trant. You might remember him as the guy that
I absolutely
Arya
don't
gouged
remember.
his eyes out.
I 1,000% don't remember who that is.
Not even
But I'll
that,
take
bit
your
where
word
Arya
for
gouged
it.
his eyes out?
I remember the eyes gouging out, but I remember the eyes getting gouged out. I didn't really put a face to that moment.
No, fair enough. He played a Kingsguard Knight. He beat Sansa for Joffrey when he asked.
But he's on Game of Thrones, is the moral of the story.
He died. He
Well,
died
was.
pretty bad. Yes.
He's part of the mythology.
Yes, he was in Game of Thrones, not anymore. Anyway, he said he was auditioning for another show at a Comic-Con he was attending, and he wouldn't name the show. I'm pretty sure I know what it is, but he wouldn't name it. And basically said that at the bottom, there on the casting call, there was a line that said, "No Game of Thrones actors." And talking about, I'm thinking, there's some pretty good actors on Game of Thrones. What the heck? But they did not want any form of brand recognition. That's to do with the identity of the show. This is obviously a show that sees itself as a Game of Thrones type show. So they obviously don't want any crossover whatsoever, which is fair enough. I won't be watching it, but okay. I love that last part, by the
Well,
way.
yeah, he's not salty at all.
It's
I won't
okay.
be watching this show that didn't hire me, but
It's okay. My 2 points here are, first of all, pretty sure this show is The Witcher, which Netflix is making. Because you said it was based on a video game, and they're making it now, and it's for Netflix or Amazon. You narrow it down, it's got to be The Witcher.
I was not a fan of it when we talked about it in our Game of Thrones successor show a while back.
You were not?
No.
Why not?
Well, I should maybe back off that a little bit.
You don't
because
like
at the
Henry Cavill?
No, at the time I was like, this is trying too hard. This is so on the nose trying to be a Game of Thrones successor. I remember distinctly because you battled me on that, and you're like, but this is a video game and a book. I'm like, no, this is like
I think
weirdly
the book
trying to
started
be.
coming out before A Song of Ice and Fire, even.
That was your argument
Like
at the time.
early 90s.
Yeah, you were probably mostly right, and I was probably
definitely
mostly
right.
wrong. But this now kind of reinforces your point even more, that where I'm sitting here being like, this is just unapologetically trying to be a Game of Thrones, they're going out of their way to not employ people who were on Game of Thrones.
Well,
even
feel like
people
that's
that
my
I don't
question.
remember. Like people that I don't remember
Yeah.
were on the show, they're like, no, if you were in any way associated with the game, if you were walking past the set when they were filming this episode, you were completely disqualified from being on this show.
Like, that's my question to you. What sense, if any, does that make? Is that a good idea? Is that justifiable to be like, we want to carve out our own identity as a, you know, a show that's being made in the wake of Game of Thrones? And I mean, it's not a Game of Thrones ripoff, but it owes its existence to Game of Thrones' success because Game of Thrones has kind of rejuvenated this fantasy space now. Do you buy the justifications for why someone would not allow Game of Thrones actors to be on their new fantasy show?
I mean, I softly buy it. Like I get what they're doing, and I respect it. Like they want to distance themselves from Game of Thrones. That's fine. If some notable actor who happened to also work on Game of Thrones wants to be on this show, there might be some bend. But also, you're not getting Kit Harington rolling up being like, "Ooh, I'm going to be on The Witcher," assuming
I mean,
it's that show.
probably
but
not, but like, I don't know, like Charles Dance, who played Tywin Lannister, comes up to you and says like, I want to be in your show.
Too iconic.
What are you going to say, no?
Yeah, that's too iconic. I would say no to that. I think that
Really?
there's levels. I think the guy who gets his eye gets gouged out by Arya, we're being a little too harsh. Maybe give him like a part if he wants a part. Charles Dance rolls up, like no. He's iconic. He is directly tied to Game of Thrones. He is in the show. I have it seared into my mind that he was this character. He can't be on another show. He can't be on a Game of Thrones-esque show because that's too much of a ripoff. If we're talking about some low-level guy who, you know, was in episode 3 of season 4 or whatever and was on screen for a total of 5 seconds and had no lines whatsoever, you turn him away at the door, I think we're being a little too harsh. But I think there's levels.
Okay, let's see. I don't know. Like, I feel like this means that, like, I don't know, Harrison Ford's in Star Wars. He can't be in any other
If Harrison
big
Ford showed up in
blockbuster.
Star Trek, he can show up in blockbusters because Indiana
So
Jones
he can be
and
Indiana
Han
Jones,
Solo
but
are
he
the
can't
same
be in
people.
Star Trek, you're saying.
I mean, it would be weird. I'm not saying he can. He can do whatever he wants to do, but it would be
obviously.
notable. Okay, the nerd culture would be like, Han Solo's on Star Trek. This is not right. He cannot walk from the Millennium Falcon onto the USS Enterprise. This does not work. So there you have a problem there where you're like, you can't have Tywin on this show. Like, what are we doing here?
What about like action heroes like Schwarzenegger or Stallone, or even like Keanu Reeves with John Wick and The Matrix, who are like kind of in the same sort of movies all the time? But and they all are
John Wick is a
successful for their own
spirit. John
ways.
Wick and The Matrix share a cinematic universe. We'll get into that in a
Do
different
they
time.
really? I didn't
they
know
do.
that.
That is, they're exactly in the same universe, but so because there's been multiple incarnations of The Matrix. There's been more than one. There's been more than one.
You're
Neo.
chasing that rabbit
So-
down that hole.
Oh,
Pretty
we'll go
hardcore
down that
now.
rabbit hole. But I mean, I think there's a difference between action movies. There's a difference when you have a fandom behind something, because John Wick has a fandom, but it's like a cool action movie, like a throwback to the '90s. Like,
Okay.
you know, Nicolas Cage is in The Rock, and he's in Con Air,
A lot of things.
and he's in all of these action movies.
Matchstick Man.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's not really an action movie. We have very different definitions of action movies if you think Matchstick Men is an action film. But, like, he's in all these, but there's a difference because it's not a franchise, okay?
Sure.
Like, if you're Batman and then you show up as, you know, Captain America, there's some words. I'm fine with it, but there's this weird cross-pollination that you can't have, especially if you're trying to establish your show, which is going to be considered a Game of Thrones ripoff, regardless of whether or not it is.
Yeah, they're gonna have to fight that.
You have to combat that. So, I mean, I think that this is aggressive, but I don't necessarily disrespect the move that, all right, we want to distance ourselves so much that we're going to actively not employ people that were on Game of Thrones.
So your point, I mean, I disagree. I do. I think if Charles Dance comes up to you and says, "I want to role in this," I think he's a very, very good actor. I bet he could act like he's not Tywin Lannister.
If you put him under a bunch of prosthetics and he's under
Not
makeup
even that,
and
just like give him a
everything,
different kind of character.
I don't know. No,
Make him a
he's
sheep
too
farmer.
he's too indistinguishable with Tywin Lannister. I'm gonna see Tywin, and I'm immediately dismissing a show I'm probably already dismissive of because I
feel like
think
you're
it's
gonna
gonna
watch
be.
this anyway.
I go, well, I'm gonna see now. I'm invested. I'm invested in seeing if it's gonna prove me wrong. But if you have Charles Dance in there, I'm like, okay, I see exactly what you're doing. Even if you're not doing it, I'm going to call you on it, and I'm on the internet, and people of the internet are always right. So, case in point.
Even when they're
there you go.
fighting
Even when
each
they're
other.
horrifically wrong.
Do any of you have opinions on this? I'd be curious to hear. Is any commenters weighing in on whether that's justifiable to do for any show, The Witcher or otherwise?
James Cosmo has been in multiple medieval shows. Just adds to the quality of that,
That's
says Razor.
true.
So there's that. Julie says it's stupid. Judge them for their work, not the shows that they've done. Julie's
agree,
on your
Julie.
side. Kenny likes the Rock shout out. There we go. Kenny knows movies.
Julie and I, we're very in tandem with her.
God forbid Bruce Willis do another action film. So,
I mean, it's been a while.
but then you enter the arena of, are you wearing out your welcome within this genre? So if Charles Dance does another sci-fi fantasy show, is he then, if he is such an actor, is he then becoming typecast as, oh, if there's a Game of Thrones-esque show, these people are going to show up for it.
I think if you are cast as a good character and you can make it work with your abilities, more power to you. But I'm glad we have a spirited debate.
Miranda Richardson will be great in the prequel. She's a great character actress.
She totally is. So will Miss Watts. I mean Watts. Looking forward to that a
It
lot.
would draw more viewers if they hired more Game of Thrones actors. That's what
That's
Kim-
two.
That's what
I mean,
Kimberly
come on.
says.
It's like part of me is like, look, you're
That's cheap, though.
you're operating. So what? Make your money.
Oh,
You're
I know,
operating
but-
in the shadow of Game of Thrones. Like it's there whether you want it to be or not. Just if an opportunity comes along, embrace it.
Yeah, I don't know. That seems cheap to me. That's
I'm all for cheap.
well, I guess. But if you want to distinguish yourself as not being a Game of Thrones ripoff, you're going to have to go to certain extents.
Well, I'm looking forward to watching this now. We can have a debate about whether it
I'm
works.
looking forward to watching this too. I'm
first
heavily
episode, at
invested
least.
in a show I'm already disliking, but who knows?
I
Maybe
can
it
say
will win me
heavily.
over. Find out next week.
All right. Is there anything
When does
else?
the show even come out? The Witcher?
this
Assuming it's
year.
even The Witcher, because it could be a
It's
completely different
definitely
show.
The Witcher. There's
But-
no other way.
Okay.
It all lined up.
When does that show even come out? It's a Netflix show, right?
Yeah, it's later this year, like probably winter, fall.
I'm already disliking it. I need definitive dates. Don't just float in the ether.
Well, they're still making
We'll
it,
be on
Josh. God.
eventually. I don't know.
We're
Are they?
making it.
Apparently, they're not going to be able to hire anybody because everybody's worked in Game of Thrones, and they're not going to hire people working
It's
in
a
Game of
huge
Thrones.
talent pool.
It is. That they're
Huge talent pool.
Look, The Witcher, more power to you. I'll watch it when it's on. So we'll see.
All right. Any
I'm
other
ready.
topics? Is there anything else any of you want us to talk about before we switch it over? Before we switch gears?
No, but I mean, on the topic of like the
That's the commenters, John. You're talking to yourself.
no, but like on the topic of The Witcher, like because this is something that I wanted to bring up.
Okay, sure.
Because and we don't have to talk about this long, but is The Witcher? What is your post Game of Thrones show like?
My post Game of Thrones
Yeah,
show?
like when Game of Thrones comes along. I was having this conversation with somebody the other day. Game of Thrones comes along, and we're in the middle of Breaking Bad, and The Walking Dead's just starting, and
Right.
The Sopranos had just ended, and Mad Men's a thing, and all of those shows end while Game of Thrones is on. So we have something to lean back on. Okay, we're like, oh, Breaking Bad's over. All right, well, I'm going to lean on Game of Thrones. Oh, man, Walking Dead's not good anymore. I'm going to lean on Game of Thrones.
Okay.
Game of Thrones is gone. What's the show we're leaning on? What is the show that has completely captured everybody's...
At the moment?
Is it going to be The Witcher? Like...
I mean, what I'm looking forward to is there are all these contenders who want to be that show.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, at this point, no one knows if they will be. But there are a lot of people who are, hungry. I mean, it's weird to say a company like Amazon or Netflix is hungry to be the next big thing, but they are. And I think that I think we're going to have a big explosion of shows for the next couple of years. Wheel of Time, Witcher, Lord of the Rings, all that stuff. I don't think they'll all stick, but I think probably one or two of them will stick. King Killer Chronicle, that's coming too. The Halo show, can't forget about that. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to the battle, frankly.
It's going to be a show that we're not seeing coming. Because nobody saw Breaking
Probably,
Bad
yeah.
coming. Nobody saw,
Game of
the
Thrones
dad from
coming.
Malcolm in the Middle cooks meth and gets cancer. That's going to be a hit.
I mean, folks didn't
Like-
see that coming until like the final couple seasons of it.
No, but everybody's, because when that ended, everybody's like, ooh, what's going to be the next anti-hero show? Who's the next Tony Soprano? Like, and then Game of Thrones is completely sweeping everybody away. So this idea that, oh, what's the next Game of Thrones? It's going to be a sci-fi action show, it's a fantasy show. And shows are going out of their way to not cast actors from Game of Thrones.
because they know they're like Game of Thrones.
Exactly. Well, I have 2 points, and we can move on to the next thing. Because Cassie, completely in my corner, says no with lots of O's. She does not want to see Game of Thrones actors in a spinoff or a different show. She's never going to be able to see them as anybody other than their characters.
Fair enough.
Which is fine. If you're iconic enough in a role, that's fine. Christian does point out, Christian Hanna points out, Chris Evans played Johnny Storm in the original
100%
Fantastic Four, and he is Captain America now. More iconically known as Captain America.
Yes, because that Johnny Storm thing kind of blew.
It did. But also, I mean...
But he is
that's,
distinguishable.
that's an example, though, where he was
Ryan
in the
Reynolds
franchise.
played like 3 different superheroes.
Well, Ryan Reynolds is Ryan Reynolds. Ryan Reynolds plays Ryan
can get into
Reynolds.
that, too.
Ryan Reynolds plays Ryan Reynolds playing Deadpool.
Hollywood
playing
gave
something,
him
so.
so many chances to that man,
did.
and it finally stuck. But it took a
Ryan
while.
Reynolds playing Ryan Reynolds voicing Pikachu. Like, we get it.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's...
But that's
I'm right.
my
We're
favor.
I'm right. You're right.
Chris
Everybody's
Evans, yeah.
right. So,
We're-
but Chris Evans is the trump card. That is, he played a very famous
And I'm
comic
sure
book
there are others.
character. Is now more well known for playing a separate, although they both existed within the Marvel universe. So,
Only the first was at Fox, wasn't it? Fantastic Four movie.
no, whatever. They're both Marvel characters. The
Yes,
first
they
one
are.
was garbage, though. You're right.
Okay. Are we done?
Oh, we're not even close, but we have to move on. So.
Okay. We'll be back after these messages. Thanks, everybody. Stay tuned for more. There you go.
Oh, Ned Stark, will you ever learn? Oh, sorry, I didn't see you there. I'm Dan Selcke, the editor at winteriscoming.net, your one-stop shop for all things Game of Thrones, A Song of Ice and Fire, and genre fiction in general. We here at Wick love bringing you news, reviews, and editorial content, and we're going to keep doing all that stuff. However, for the especially hardcore among you, we're going to start offering even more. Welcome to the Wick Club. The Wick Club is a Patreon-funded effort to provide fantasy and sci-fi fans with even more Wick content. You can join at several levels. For $1 a month, you can enter into monthly swag giveaways and get to read extra columns. At $4, you'll get to watch extra episodes of Take the Black Live, our weekly chat show, with topics chosen by you. Please be gentle. And at the Valyrian Steel level, that's $10 a month, you get Wick Club t-shirts and access to a new segment we're calling Drinking and Knowing Things, a monthly live stream where I drink wine and talk with all of you in a free-flowing conversation about Game of Thrones, fantasy, sci-fi, and whatever else comes up after I've had a few. Just to be clear, we're not going to stop doing anything on Wick we already do, and we're hoping to add more stuff anyway. The Wick Club is a way to produce even more content, and hopefully to get to know some of you better. You can find links to more information below. We hope to see you in the Wick Clubhouse. Valar Morghulis, bottoms up, and thanks for watching.
Welcome back, everybody. We are now going to indulge in Song of Dan and Josh, the show where
Yes.
myself, Dan Selcke, who has read the books multiple times, the Song of Ice and Fire books, and Josh Hill, who has only ever seen the Game of Thrones show.
But I've read the first book now.
Now you've read the first book and like a third of the second book. Walk through every single chapter of George R. R. Martin's yet unfinished opus, breaking them down, what makes them work, what makes them not work, what makes them special. And today we are reading Davos, the very first Davos Seaworth chapter from A Clash of Kings.
We are. Julie, hello. She says, is Josh joining us? I'm like, yes. I've been with you all
Julie,
along.
you cut up.
Julie's a gas. I like her. Yeah, Davos.
Okay, so first ever chapter ever. A long one. We're going to have some long, because I think next to the first Theon chapter ever. And that's also
That's
quite
right.
a
Yeah, we
whopper.
haven't gotten to a Theon chapter yet, have we?
No, this is the first Theon chapter next week. But this is Davos. So, how'd you like being inside the humble smuggler's head for the first time?
I do like Davos. It was very interesting because it's all of the things that are going on around him are just so fantastical, and he seems like Davos is like the everyman.
He
in a
really
way.
is.
So
If there's an everyman in this story,
it's Davos.
It's
and
Davos.
There's all of these mystical things going on with Melisandre is there, and
she's
Stannis.
burning.
We got the sword and all this kind of stuff. I forget the name. It's Lightbringer.
Lightbringer. Yeah.
Lightbringer.
The whole, I mean, basically, the chapter is pretty long, but there's only like kind of two scenes. It starts with Melisandre is burning these really, really, really old and valuable statues of the 7 gods of Westeros as a way of saying, out with the old gods and with my new freaky red fire god.
Yeah.
And it's important to underline like how big of a move that is. This is like if, you know, some new government like took Michelangelo's David and the Mona Lisa and just like set them on fire and said, that's the old, I am the new. Like she's really being bold to the point where I think it says there were some of Stannis' knights who tried to stop her and kill her, and then her followers ended up killing them. So I love Melisandre. I think, you know why? Because she is a character who like makes the plot move really fast and really strong.
Yeah.
Like when she's around, things happen. Like this whole, everything Stannis is doing, like the reason he's trying to, you know, take the throne and disrupt all these other characters' lives, Tyrion, Renly, Robb Stark, is because she's pushing him to do it. So she's, I'm not even sure, I'm not even sure that she has a line in this chapter. But her presence is very, very strongly felt.
Yeah.
That she's the reason kind of all of this craziness is happening. And I love that about her. I love that she moves stuff along.
I do. Yeah. Amy says that she needs to read the books after it's all finished. She has the books, but hasn't gotten around to reading them. Read them now. Read them with us, Amy. Read them with us.
Davos 1.
Trust me, we're going 1 chapter a week. You will catch up to us in no time.
Easy. Just read 2. You'll be there in a little bit.
Yeah. No, Melisandre's. I like that she has a presence.
Yeah.
And it's this. We kind of set the tone of this with the first chapter where things are going to be a little different.
Definitely.
And there's this weird mysticism going on in the background. Literally, she is kind of in the background here.
Totally.
Controlling, pulling the puppet strings to control everything that he's doing, which is fascinating to me. Because none of these characters have control. None of them do. Ned thought he had control and literally lost his head. So the idea that we're just cutting out that kind of analogy, we're going to straight, you know, nobody's in control, to this guy literally is under a spell. Like he is under Melisandre's bidding. That's I find that fascinating. This new little wrinkle.
Is he under a spell, Stannis? Like, why is he joining up with this weird red witch lady?
Well, the power is the spell. Like the lust for power. Like he is trying to get to the throne. Like he's Robert's brother. Like we've got, who's the guy Edric that they keep mentioning?
Edric Storm?
Yeah, Edric Storm.
He's not in the show.
No. I was trying to figure out who that was because they were like, Edric.
Yeah, he's one of Robert's bastards, not the show. He will play a part. They kind of shove, Gendry plays his part on the show. They kind of put him in that role.
Oh, okay.
But we'll get to that later.
Yeah, but no, this idea that Stannis is just lusting after this power so much as this vacuum, and he's going to, by any means necessary, get there. It feels like everybody else is trying to get there through regular means of like, ooh, this is the traditional way of doing things, which is the Ned Stark way of playing it by the book, where Stannis is like, get a little black magic going here.
Yeah, if
and
it works.
I'm going to do what I need. And I feel like he thinks that gives him power that nobody else has. He wants a card that's not in everybody else's deck. Everybody else has the armies and they have the political power and they have all of this, where he's like, okay, I need something else. I need something to go over the top. How about a red priestess?
I completely agree with you. And yeah, he puts it like this. This is Stannis, my Stannis voice. I know little and care less of gods, but the red priestess has power. Half my knights are afraid even to say her name. Did you know? If she can do nothing else, a sorceress who can inspire such dread in grown men is not to be despised. A frightened man is a beaten man, and perhaps she can do more. I mean to find out. So I wouldn't say he's not under he's not like without the power to resist, but yeah, he sees her use. Mm-hmm. My favorite thing about Stannis and Melisandre is how much of an odd couple they are.
Oh yeah.
And my favorite moment in this chapter, kind of easily, is so it all starts with Melisandre trying to do, like I said, burning the statues, having Stannis pull this flaming sword out as part of a ritual. She wants to make him into this kind of like messianic, prophesied figure. Mm-hmm. Azor Ahai was a big thing in the mythology of the show. And you know, it's impressive, but Stannis he's not a pageantry guy.
No.
And my favorite bit is when he's pulling the flaming sword out. It's like it's all green flames pulling around, and then his pants catch fire. And he has to like beat his pants to fire out, just completely undercutting the sanctum. He says the whole thing. It's great. I love it.
Is Melisandre like the Steve Bannon?
Yes.
Like,
she's absolutely the
Steve
Steve
Stannis' Trump, where it's like this buffoon.
I think you're underselling both of them.
This buffoon who's lighting himself on fire, and she's like, no, you idiot. Like, this is how we're going to do it. Like, she's the brains of the operation. So... And the power.
I
like,
mean,
she's
Stannis
clearly the driving
is quite
force.
a bit, I think, more capable than Trump. Oh, God. Why do we do this? It's a terrible idea.
I love it when we do this. We need to do this more often.
I think it undersells both of them. Yes,
she's the
definitely
brains.
puppet master. Yes,
she's pulling the strings. She's powering the machine that Stannis is the face of. Because she's never going to get the throne. Ever.
I mean, she doesn't want it. And that's another thing that's really cool about her, that her motives are kind of completely opaque. I mean, you know, you don't see her much in here. She's making these huge, bold moves. You know she must have some kind of enormous conviction, but you don't know exactly for what, which just makes her a very interesting character. So I love those two. I love their kind of dynamic. At the end of here, Stannis drafts a letter to the rest of the Lords of Westeros, kind of announcing his claim. I'm going to take the Iron Throne. Another great Stannis bit. Mm-hmm. The draft letter calls Robert my beloved brother. And he's like, take out beloved. I didn't love him. Just like, it's a courtesy. It's a lie. Take it out. Just like, that's just the kind of guy Stannis is.
Hardcore.
He's very by the book, do it the right way. That's just his thing. And he makes them call Jaime Lannister Sir, even though they don't want to do that. Just, he's a knight. Call him Sir. I don't like him, but call him Sir, just because he'll always do it proper. That's Stannis.
By the book. Kayla Stevenson says she loves Melisandre, feels she is reading the Lord of Light signs right, but she's not. Edric Storm is Stannis' nephew who lives on Dragonstone, who was created on Stannis' wedding night.
Yes, another reason he hates his brother. Like Robert, I think, slept in Stannis' wedding bed and birthed this bastard, noble lady.
As you do.
I mean, God, yeah, I guess if you're Robert Baratheon, you're just like, whatever, I'm drunk, let's do it.
Yeah, I had a little
He's married to
opinion of
Cersei
Robert.
at that time. Cersei's like downstairs at that wedding ceremony,
Yeah.
having a drink, and his husband's up there. Oh, God, these people.
A very low opinion of Robert Baratheon.
He's the worst.
Yeah.
I mean, of the three Baratheon brothers, it's hard to say who's the best one. They're none of them perfect.
No.
And finally, Davos, who I think kind of like plays the role you sometimes see in stories where it's he's kind of the boring one meant to set off these more larger than life figures.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna see Melisandre through his eyes, you're gonna see Sansa through his eyes, and he's just kind of, you know, the one who's by design not terribly exciting, so they can stand out. But I mean, he has plenty of personality though. He has a class problem. So Davos is born a commoner. He's not a lord. Stannis raised him up after cutting off his fingers. And he talks about just his struggles. The Lord of the Tides was of the blood of ancient Valyria, and his house had thrice provided brides for Targaryen princes. Davos Seaworth stank of fish and onions. It was the same with the other lordlings. He could trust none of them, nor would they ever include him in their private councils. They scorned his sons as well. But his plan is, okay, you don't like me, you don't like my sons, but after my sons marry your daughters and they have kids, my family is going to be noble sooner or later. Like, you can't stop that.
Buckle up now. Get
Yeah.
ready. It's happening.
That's his long-term plan. He knows he's never going to be respected, but he can raise his family and his descendants up a couple of notches on the ladder, which is a noble goal.
It is.
Yeah, it's hard not to like him for that. And it explains why he's so loyal to Stannis.
Yep.
I mean, if you think this guy is the one who's going to be able to give my family a future, like, that's a really powerful motivator.
Yeah. Davos is, like I said, he's an everyman. He's like a likable, you can insert yourself into his role more so than any of these other ones. Like, Ned's noble, or he's like, the king of the north and all that kind of, like, the king's hand and all this kind of stuff. You've got Jon, who is clearly on this, like, Luke Skywalker path.
Right.
Everybody's royalty, it seems. You don't relate with any of the Lannisters. Not even Tyrion, because Tyrion at the end of the day
has a lot of unique problems.
But at the end of the day, he's still, coming from the rich family from the burbs. Yeah. So.
I think Davos is the only point of view character, certainly so far, maybe in the entire thing, who isn't born a noble. I think. I guess Melisandre too, but she's. No one likes Melisandre.
I like Melisandre.
I love
Julie
Melisandre.
likes Melisandre too. She says, "Who wouldn't want to have a red priestess?"
She's one of my favorites, but she's not terribly relatable.
Oh no, she's
I think
not
her
relatable
thing
at all.
is she's supposed to be like really distant.
She's like the least relatable.
Yeah,
magic
Davos
isn't a
is-
thing. Like,
exactly.
that's her thing.
But Davos is very, very close. You're right. He's in that role. I also think we should talk really quickly, lastly, about Azor Ahai, which is not in the show really.
Okay.
In the books, just to fill you in. So Davos talks to his friend Salvador San, who is on the show briefly.
Okay.
Like a pirate friend of his who's working for Stannis.
Oh,
Yeah, remember him from the early seasons? He showed a couple times. And he tells him about this ancient legend named Azor Ahai. A figure will pull Lightbringer, the flaming sword, from yada yada, and become a messiah of sorts. Now, I'm just gonna tell you this, and people listening, you know what I'm talking about. The fan community, they love to theorize about this. I don't know. And honest to God, it's only in like these two lines, a couple others, in very long, thick books.
Yeah.
But they go crazy. Like, all the theories are about, is Jon Azor Ahai? Is Daenerys Azor Ahai?
I was gonna say that name has come up so many times because of fan theories.
Totally.
Like, he's gonna show up in season 8.
And
I'm what?
this is it.
Yeah.
Like, this is where it's from. It's not on the show. It's like these two lines in this book. And this book is huge. This series is huge.
And it's the second of many books. Like,
Yes. I mean, it comes up once or twice more, but I think the chatter about it is way out of proportion to like what is there in the text. And I've always found it interesting. But I think the point of that conversation is to show that Stannis is not this Messiah.
No.
Because Messiah is not going to beat the flames from the flaming sword out in his pants.
No.
It's not what Messiah is going to do. It's going to be
most
classier
certainly
about it.
will not.
Which is, again, very interesting because Stannis, the conflict is he's not a religious guy, but he's being put in a religious position. And how's he going to grapple with that? We'll see.
We'll find out.
Any other comments from you or our dear viewers?
No. Dan says, born amidst salt and smoke.
Yep.
And also Amy says that challenge accepted to catching up.
All right,
us.
Amy.
Tell her what chapter we're reading next so she can catch up.
Next, we are reading Theon 1 from A Clash of Kings, the first Theon chapter ever, which is pretty long, so buckle down, by the way.
Oh, I'm ready.
Before we go, one really quick thing. Vocabulary for the week. You know we got to do that.
Vocabulary.
And this is a word you can actually use in everyday life because it's not a medieval specific word.
Hit me.
Conflagration. Do you know what that was?
Definitely not using that in everyday conversation.
No, but you could. It's not like about armor or anything stupid doesn't exist anymore. Conflagration. An extensive fire which destroys a great deal of land or property. It's a big old fire. A conflagration. What a good synonym.
It is very good. It's one that, again, not going to say it because it's too hard to say, and not going to say it because I'm not actively in situations where I'm describing large patches of fire.
Like, I get it, but I think it's more likely to say that than like, I don't know,
There's been
like
some gems.
trebuchet.
Yeah.
Like you're never going to encounter a trebuchet in your life at the museum. You might encounter a fire.
Maybe. But if I encounter a fire, I'm not going to be thinking of that word. I'm going to be thinking of multiple other things. It is one of the most relatable words that we've come across.
Okay.
Because we've come across some doozies, and this is not among them.
Perfect. One of my favorite ones. All right. Well, that's our show, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll be back next Wednesday at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. Talk more Game of Thrones, more Song of Ice and Fire, more genre fiction, and more Song of Dan and Josh. Thanks for watching. See you next week.